Does your partner seem to try one day and then do nothing the next? It's pretty aggravating when you have a partner who's inconsistent. Recently had somebody send me a message the other day and wanted me to address this topic. Um, and so here's my thoughts on this. I'll hear these people, they'll come into my office and because I think I've mentioned this to you guys before, that sometimes I'll have people who come to marriage counseling, relationship counseling by themselves. You say, how's that really relationship counseling? Because that's where their focus is trying to improve their level of connection with their partner. And sometimes you're going to have somebody who is stubborn or fearful and they refuse to come. I've mentioned this to you guys before, that the person who's unwilling to come to therapy is usually the one who's got the most to lose. They don't want to give up their little subtle negative behaviors, or they're afraid they're going to be called out and they don't want to hear that from the professional, and so they avoid these interactions. But I'll have these people come in by themselves and they'll say, well, my partner's really trying. And I'll say, yeah. What's he doing? And they'll say, well, he washed a load of dishes the other day. Or the guy will say, my wife's really trying. And I'll say, yeah, what'd she do? And they go, yeah, she washed a load of clothes. And I'm thinking, that still sounds pretty lame to me. That's pretty lazy, because you're supposed to be doing that kind of stuff. I don't really know you get points for doing that, and that's supposed to count as effort, but somehow that's supposed to be miraculous. So if you got a partner who's trying one day and then they're not, to me on the front end of that sounds like maybe they're just being lazy. And that may or may not be the case, because some people, they only do what they feel like doing. And the other side of that, though, is if you got a partner who's inconsistent, something to consider, at least some, is that they may be depressed. Depressed people, they struggle with low levels of interest, motivation, and interest in previously enjoyed activities. So if your partner was once a thriving individual who was very actively engaged, and all of a sudden they can't hardly participate at all, or seeming like they're not really trying, consider they may be depressed, and take them to a medical professional, whether it's like a psychiatrist or the family physician or their GYN, and get them some help for that depression, because that is an easy fix. I've been in this field for 34 years at the time of this filming, and depression can be treated like that. So it's a very easy kind of thing. Don't live and struggle with that. And if your partner is kind of proud, nudge them, help them go. Say, I'll go with you. Make it easy for them. Don't push them to do something they're afraid to do, because if they know they're depressed and they're not doing something, they're probably afraid of doing it. But if the other side of this, going back to this, if their partner's inconsistent, it may be that they're lazy, because some people, they only do what they feel like doing, as I mentioned a minute ago. There's a saying that I learned many years ago when I turned 40, that people buy what they want and beg for what they need, which basically means this to me. People do what they want to do. You don't have to be a psychologist or any kind of mental health professional to know that. All you got to do is sit back and watch people. They do what they want to do. They prioritize. So if you got a partner who's not really fully engaged, or they're inconsistent, stop and look at what they do. Like some of these people, they may be into video games. They're grown adults, but they're all into video games. But they have a passion for that. They can find time for that, but they can't seem to find time for you or helping around the house. Or maybe they have an interest like hobby, like hunting or athletics to some degree, or going off with their girlfriends. If your wife's got a lot of social network or something like that, people do what they want to do. So, and what they usually do is they wait until you have had it up to here, and then you raise hell. And then they'll do it. They'll wake up for a time and they'll do better for a period of time. But once you get off their back, they're right back to their old behaviors. And so if you've got somebody who's doing like that, it's not depression. What you want to do is you want to address this issue, and encourage them. Well, I guess let me say it this way. You can encourage them to do better, but you've tried that. If you are guilty of this, I think this is the angle I want to go with this. If you're guilty of this, stop letting your feelings dictate what you do. You go to work whether you feel like it or not. You take care of your children whether you want to or not. But when it comes to your relationship, all of a sudden you let your feelings dictate what you do. You need to make that choice that I'm going to be a great wife or great husband or great partner if you're not married. And then you got to be consistent with it. You got to be consistent with what you think, say, and do, that you're showing up at this high level. As you've heard me say before, from an 80 to 100%. Um, I'm always trying to show up in my marriage at a minimum, just in a general range, is from an 87 to 92. I'm fortunate my wife pretty much always shows up at a 92. So I'm blessed that way. And as y'all have heard me say, I don't believe anybody is, over a 95. 95 is kind of my 100. So decide to be a great partner and make sure that you are being consistent. Don't just do good one day and be slack the next. Thank y'all for tuning in. I'll talk to y'all soon.